Welcome to the Principles of Truth podcast with Curt and Ellie. Join us as we discuss various topics and compare them to the one truth, God and His Word. How do these things we see and hear stack up to that truth? Let's look together and find out. This one is called When God Shines His Light. And we'd like to talk a little bit today about the light of God, when God shines His light on us and shows us what's in us. So we're going to read today from Job. We've been talking a lot lately about Job because there's so much to learn from everything that Job went through. So we're going to read from Job chapter 1. We'll start in verse 6 and read down through a little bit. And then a little bit later, we're going to read a little bit from Job chapter 2. Okay?
Sounds good.
So, Job 1:6 says, One day the members of the heavenly court came to present themselves before the Lord, and the accuser, Satan, came with them. Where have you come from? The Lord asked Satan. And Satan answered, saying, I have been patrolling the earth, watching everything that's going on. Then the Lord asked Satan, Have you noticed my servant Job? He is the finest man in all the earth. He is blameless, a man of complete integrity. He fears God and stays away from evil. And here's what Satan said, verse 9. Satan replied to the Lord and said, Yes, but Job has good reason to fear God. You have always put a wall of protection around him and his home and his property. You have made him prosper in everything he does. Look how rich he is. But reach out and take away everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face. And here's God's reply to that. He said, All right, you may test him. Do whatever you want with everything he possesses, but don't harm him physically. So Satan left the Lord's presence. And that was the beginning of Job's massive loss and a massive attack on Job's life that, like we were saying, we can learn so much from.
Right.
And, Job goes on for a lot of chapters, but it's definitely worth reading. So we encourage you, as we've probably already done many times, to read through the book of Job and study it and see what you can get from it. But today we want to talk specifically about the attack on Job. And we want to take that and kind of apply it to our own lives and talk about what came out of that attack and how we can use that to learn and grow in our own lives as a believer, as a follower of Christ. After Satan left God's presence, it wasn't long. The Bible doesn't really say how long after, but not too long after, Job's family was attacked. And his sons and daughters, well, it started off that his stuff was attacked. His possessions were attacked. All of his livestock were either killed or stolen. Everything that he had in a material way, all of his possessions were taken away. And it's interesting to note that when God gave the enemy permission to attack Job, he told him that he could touch his stuff, but he couldn't touch Job. And so Satan went to work pretty quickly to attack and destroy everything that Job had, including his sons and daughters. So not only did he lose his stuff, his animals, his sheep, his livestock, or whatever, but he also lost his family. The only one left was his wife. And, we have talked about this in the recent past.
Right.
So we don't want to seem redundant. But we want to talk about the aspect of God giving the enemy permission to touch Job's life and to attack him. And if you were to read through Job and all the things that happened, you would see that really this was not so much God testing Job. It was a test of sorts. But this attack on Job exposed some things in Job that Job had no idea were there.
Right.
I'm going to go to chapter 2 and read again. And we'll see where we go from there. So this is Job chapter 2, and it starts off in verse 1. And basically verse 1 starts the same way, that there was a meeting, the members of the heavenly court, they came together, etc. Satan was there. So in verse 3, God again asked Satan, Have you noticed my servant Job? And it basically repeats kind of the same verbiage as what was in the last chapter that we read. So I won't read through that again, but bear with me, find my place. But at the end of verse 3, God says to Satan, he fears God and stays away from evil, and he has maintained his integrity, even though you urged me to harm him without cause. So God is telling Satan that Job is an incredible man of integrity, that he has maintained his integrity despite the fact that you have attacked him without cause. And then he goes on to say, well, Satan replies to God and says, skin for skin. A man will give up everything he has to save his life. He will give up everything he has to save his life. So at that moment, what is Satan saying? He's saying, let me attack Job. Let me go at him now. He may have done well when we removed when I removed his possession, when I took out the lives of his children. But let's see what happens now if I touch him.
Right.
And he's fearing for his life. So we are in Job chapter 2, verse 4. So Satan replied to the Lord, skin for skin. A man will give up everything he has to save his life. But reach out and take away his health, and he will surely curse you to your face. And God said, all right, do with him as you please, but spare his life. So Satan left the Lord's presence, and he struck Job with terrible boils from head to foot. So God gave the enemy, again, permission to attack Job, but this time he gave him permission to touch Job's body, to attack his body physically and bring an ailment to his body. And so it was when Job's body was physically touched that Satan believed that Job would fail, that Job would just fold under the pressure and curse God and surrender himself and just give up. And God knew that was not true. So he told Satan, you can touch him, but you cannot have his life. You can't take his life. You can take his health, but not his life. And so in the ensuing pages after, the chapters after this, there were lots of conversations with Job and his friends. And over time, things began to come out in the discussions that they had.
Right.
You know, Job would speak, and then his friends would speak, and Job would rebut what they had said. And to kind of make the long story short, because Job is very lengthy, so we'll try not to be lengthy. But what happened was, as Job spoke, he began to expose the things in him that were probably the one big downfall that he had, the one pitfall that he had in his life, and that was pride. Job ended up being prideful and proud, even though he didn't necessarily carry him that way. Now, the thing is, nobody would ever have seen it, including Job himself, if God had not taken his big light and shined it.
Allowed things to happen
that
would bring that out.
Exactly. And so we're kind of equating those attacks, and it may seem a little bit odd that we would equate an attack on someone's life with God shining his light, like a big flashlight, a floodlight, or even a spotlight that zooms in on something. It may seem odd that we would equate an attack from the enemy as being God shining his light. But if we think about it, it's when we're under pressure. It's when we're in the midst of trials and we face persecution and we face these things in life that are hard. It's then that we see things come out. You know, when we get squeezed, when something gets squeezed, the stuff that's inside comes out, and it can show us who we really are.
That's right.
It can show us what's inside. And so as Job was squeezed by this situation, the words that he spoke began to expose some things in him that he probably didn't even know were there.
Right.
So we have to know that, first of all, we have to know that sometimes things that we face may be an attack of the enemy that God is allowing. And that is not something that's popular to hear. Nobody wants to hear that, because we all think of God as loving, protective, etc. And he is. He's all of those things. But there are times, as what happened with Job, that God may allow things to come against us to show us certain things and to teach us certain things, because if we didn't face certain types of trials, certain types of attacks, we would never learn some of the things that we need to know.
Sometimes we just need to see what's in us. It's an important thing to see what we are made of. And in Job's life, he was pretty strong in many areas of his life, but there were some things that he needed that light to shine, and the only way to see it was probably to go through some of the things he went through, where he could see himself living an easy life and having everything good and you know, being blessed all the time. You don't really get to see yourself.
No, you don't.
You know,
You're
see
right.
the happy side of yourself.
Yeah.
But you get hit with some pretty hard things, and you start to see how you're going to react.
Yeah.
Are you going to do the right thing? Are you going to stand strong and stand firm? And, you know, through it all, Job didn't reject God through it all.
He didn't.
And he didn't, like his wife wanted him to do, you know, just
curse God
and die. He didn't do that.
No, he didn't.
You know, he stayed strong. He stayed firm. And he kept going. And yes, he was hit pretty hard. I'd say those were pretty hard things to be hit by.
Yeah.
I mean,
lost his whole family.
His family, his, you know, his possessions, and so his finances.
He was empty-handed in the end.
I mean, all that was left was himself, really, you know, and he had to see that last part of him, like, what is it? What is this? And, you know, if we're not paying attention and we're not looking at these things, we'll totally miss whatever it is, whatever test or trial we're going through, we'll miss the most important part if we get caught up in what we lost instead of what we want.
Good point.
You know, what we need to gain from all of this.
Right.
You know, so keeping our eyes on, the Bible talks about keep your eyes on the prize.
Right.
A lot of times, you know, we're referring to
our eternal prize.
Our eternal prize. But here, while we're here in life, in this life, keep our eyes looking toward the things that we can gain through the trials and tribulations we go through so that we can be stronger and be more of a light.
Right.
You know, God's light can shine through us even more so as we deny ourselves.
Right.
And pick up the cross and follow him by getting rid of a lot of these things in us that need to go so that we can be a light in this world. And the only way a lot of times to do that is to allow God to shine his light on us through trials.
Right.
Through tribulations, through hard times that are going to make us stronger. You know, it's a hard thing. Job went through a lot, you know, and in the end, he stayed steadfast. And we as believers need to push through these things and be strong and be steadfast in believing. Going through things, sometimes you will see things in yourself that you will even be surprised and shocked at. Like, wow. Can't believe I responded that way.
I didn't know that was in there.
That's right. But it's only then that you can look and say, hey, God, help me. I need to fix that. I need you to help me fix that. I didn't even know it was there, you know?
Yeah.
So.
And that's basically our whole point today was to help us to understand that when we face those tough things, we'll see things in ourselves that we either didn't know was there or that we just kept hiding, that, you know, hoping that they would never come out.
Right.
People wouldn't see them. But it's good that they come out.
Yes,
because it's only when we root them out that they can be seen and we can then deal with them.
That's right.
And get them out for good.
Yeah.
And so, you know, Job, again, like we've said probably a dozen times in the last few months, there's so much to learn from Job.
There is. That's right.
And so this is just another lesson that comes out of this book that's such a wealth of knowledge for us, this one particular book of Job. And so, you know, we encourage you as you face trials, it's not ever easy. No. It's never easy to face trials. So we're not going to sit here and try to paint some pretty picture and say that, you know, we just skip right through because trials are trials. They call them trials for a reason. And so we just want to encourage you, if you're facing a trial, stay focused on God. Keep your eyes on God. And as silly or crazy as this may sound, ask God, you know, God, what is it? What am I supposed to learn from this? What can I gain from this that will bring glory and honor to you? Because ultimately that's why we're here.
That's right.
That's what our lives are for. He didn't just put us here to fill up the earth and live, you know, happy lives and go on our way. Right. And it's not that God doesn't want us to be joyful and happy. He does. But he wants us to be obedient.
Yes, that's
and,
right.
you know, we need to obey him in all things, even as we walk through trials.
Yes.
So that's it.
Yes.
That's today's word of wisdom, I guess. We love you guys.
We love you.
Thank you for your prayers.
Yes.
Thank you for all that you do.
Yes.
Thank you for your financial support. We truly appreciate it.
So
more than words can say.
Yes.
And if you would like this and comment on it, share it, and subscribe, we would greatly appreciate that as well. You guys have a great rest of your day. Take care. Stay close to God, and we'll talk again soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We hope you've enjoyed this podcast. If you did, we invite you to share it with others. Also, if you'd like to receive a daily Bible devotional to help you learn to apply God's Word to your daily lives and to strengthen your walk with Him, please visit BibleDevotionalsOnline.com, where you can sign up to receive one of our devotionals by email each morning. It's 100% free and takes less than a minute to sign up. Again, that's BibleDevotionalsOnline.com.